was such a sunny day when I finally arrived at my new home with my family. After years of living in a cramped apartment in the middle of the city, moving to the suburbs in America felt like a dream come true. The house is large, with a large courtyard surrounded by a white wooden fence. In the back, there are towering maple trees, providing natural shade and fresh air. We loved everything about this house: the new paint, the high ceilings, and the large windows that flooded the room with sunlight. However, even though it seemed perfect, there was something that made me uneasy from the start. The guest room downstairs feels different. The room is always cold, even when the house heater is on. The air inside seemed to pierce bones for no apparent reason. The large mirror in the corner of the room was the only striking feature. It looked old, with carved wooden frames that were starting to wear out. Our first night at home, everything went smoothly until my daughter, Anya, suddenly came to my room with a pale face. "There's someone in the living room," he said quietly, his voice almost whispering. He held his stuffed rabbit tightly, as if it could protect him. At first, I thought he was just scared because of the new house. "Honey, maybe you're having a nightmare," I said, trying to calm her down. But Anya's eyes looked at me seriously. I actually saw him in the mirror. He stood there and looked at me. His fear made me uneasy. I decided to check the guest room quickly. With the room lights on brightly, I stood in front of the large mirror. There was nothing there. Only my own shadow was visible on the surface. "It's nothing, honey," I said after returning to the room. Anya didn't say anything else that night, but I knew something was bothering her mind. However, that night I started hearing footsteps. At first, I thought it was just a creaky wooden floor, but the sound was clear, rhythmic, like someone walking slowly down the hallway. When I got up to check, I didn't find anything. All the doors were closed, and Maya and Anya were still asleep. I returned to bed with an indescribable feeling of anxiety. The next morning, Maya told her dream about the guest room. In his dream, he saw someone standing in front of the mirror with his back to him. Maya described him as a tall figure with hunched shoulders. "I feel like he knows we're here," he said in a low voice. I tried to dismiss it as just a nightmare, but it didn't feel so simple. From then on, we started avoiding guest rooms. Even Anya refused to pass through her door. I knew there was something unusual going on there, but I wasn't ready to face the truth yet. The following nights became more and more strange. Every night I heard those footsteps again, rhythmic, slow, like someone wandering down the aisle. I tried to ignore it, thinking it was just the curved wooden floors of the house or the sound coming from the heating system. However, there was one thing I couldn't ignore. The sound was getting closer and closer to our bedroom. Sometimes I even feel the footsteps stop right in front of the door of the room. Anya also started to change. He became quieter than usual. The normally cheerful child now often seems moody, especially when he has to go downstairs. One day when he was playing in the living room, I heard him talking quietly. "No, I don't want to go there," he said, as if answering someone. I approached her and asked softly, "Honey, who are you talking to?" He looked at me with a blank expression before replying. He said he was waiting in front of the mirror. Anya's words made me stand up. I tried my best not to show fear on my face. "Oh, that's just a fantasy, right?" I said in a low voice. However, deep down, I knew something was wrong. That night, Maya also began to feel something. As we sat in the living room, she suddenly admitted to feeling watched. "I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like someone is watching us from the guest room," she said. The guest room window overlooked directly onto the backyard, but the darkness of the night made it look like it was just an empty black mirror. I looked towards the door of the sealed guest room, then returned to Maya, trying to calm her mind. "Maybe you're just tired. It's been a long week," I said. However, shortly afterwards, those disturbing feelings began to attack me. I could no longer ignore the sound of footsteps that was heard more and more often. Sometimes I even felt the wooden floor vibrate lightly, as if someone was walking right behind me. I tried to find a rational explanation, but those logical thoughts no longer gave me a sense of calm. One night, I finally decided to record those strange sounds using my phone. I wanted to prove to myself that everything was just a fantasy. I put my phone in the hallway near the guest room and let it record for a few hours. When I played back the recording, there was a clear sound recorded. Footsteps, slow and intermittent, like someone walking carefully. But what surprised me was the next sound, the sound of heavy breathing, snorting like someone who was exhausted. Fear began to take over. I knew I had to do something, but I also knew that whatever was going on, it wouldn't be easy to deal with. The figure who inhabits the guest room is getting bolder every night, and I feel like our time in this house is getting thinner. That night, I could no longer ignore what had happened. The constant footsteps, the cold air in the guest room, and the feeling of constant surveillance made me realize that I had to face it all. Maya and Anya have gone to a relative's house, and I myself decided to stay up late tonight, waiting for something to happen. When the hand showed 2 a.m, I heard the sound of footsteps again. But tonight is different. The voice was clearer, more firm, like someone deliberately showing his presence. The step came from the hallway of the guest room. I grabbed a flashlight and stood in front of the door of the room I hadn't touched in days. The atmosphere was so quiet, except for the sound of my breathing sounding heavy. I opened the door slowly. The large mirror in the room stood in place, as usual. However, tonight there was something different. The light of my flashlight reflected something on the surface of the mirror, a faint shadow, almost like someone standing in it. I felt my stand up. I tried to get closer, but the air in the room felt colder and colder, piercing my skin. And then I heard something, a small voice, almost like a whisper. I couldn't understand what he was saying, but it came from the mirror, as if someone on the other side was trying to speak. My body froze, but I forced myself to stay calm. I ventured to approach the mirror, hoping to find something rational, something that could explain everything. However, as I stepped closer, my own reflexes in the mirror felt wrong. My eyes looked darker, almost empty, and I swore to see my shadow lips move, even though I wasn't talking. I retreated in a panic, trying to understand what was happening. In my confusion, the mirror suddenly began to shake. Slowly at first, then grew stronger. I heard the sound of small cracks, like glass almost breaking. I didn't wait any longer. I ran out of the room, closed the door tightly, and didn't return until morning. When I checked back the next day, the mirror looked as usual. No cracks, no strange shadows. However, I knew what I felt that night was real. Something was there, in the mirror, observing me. We left the house a few days later. To this day, I never know what really happened in that guest room. Was it just my imagination fueled by fatigue and stress, or was there really something hiding behind that reflection of the mirror? I may never get an answer, but one thing is for sure. I never want to go back to that house again.